At 7:12 a.m., the first American shell struck the front of the German tank and burst into sparks. For a split second, the crew of the M10 Wolverine believed they had survived. Then the Tiger eye kept coming. Inside the open-top turret, the 5 American soldiers stared through drifting smoke as 80 tons of steel rolled forward through the Ardennes forest. Frost covered the branches above them. Snow crunched under the tracks. The freezing air cut across the exposed fighting compartment, and every man understood the truth at the same moment. Their best shot had done almost nothing.
If you want more content like this, subscribe now and comment below.
The German tank stopped with terrifying confidence. Its turret began to turn, slowly, smoothly, deliberately. The long 88mm gun aligned with the American destroyer. You can almost feel the silence in that instant. No one spoke. No one moved. There was only the sound of idling engines, the hiss of snow falling from pine branches, and the sickening realization that the next few seconds would decide everything. Then the Tiger fired. The blast lit the forest in orange flame. Steel tore apart. The M10 Wolverine disappeared inside a cloud of smoke, splinters, and burning gasoline. The Americans had fired first. The Tiger fired last. And on that frozen December morning in Belgium, one of the most dangerous duels of the Second World War was over almost as soon as it began. In the winter of 1944, the American army believed it understood the enemy it faced. German armored forces had been battered in Normandy, pushed across France, and forced back to the borders of their own Reich. Many Allied soldiers thought the war in Europe was entering its final stage. Christmas was only days away, and some men were already imagining letters from home, hot meals, and the possibility that they might soon survive the war. But deep inside the Ardennes forest, German commanders were preparing one final gamble. Under the direct orders of Adolf Hitler, more than 200,000 German troops and nearly 1,000 armored vehicles were assembled for a surprise offensive through Belgium and Luxembourg. The operation began before dawn on December 16, 1944. Its objective was bold and desperate: break through the thinly held American lines, cross the Meuse River, and capture the vital port of Antwerp. If successful, the attack could split Allied armies and force a negotiated peace. The offensive became known as the Battle of the Bulge. At the center of this assault were some of Germany's most feared armored formations. Among them was the 1st SS Panzer Division, Leibstandarte SS Adolf Hitler, led by Joachim Peiper. Peiper's battle group included Panther tanks, half-tracks, self-propelled guns, and several Tiger I heavy tanks from the 501st SS Heavy Panzer Battalion. Each Tiger I was a symbol of battlefield power. Introduced in 1942, the tank weighed more than 57 tons and carried the deadly 8.8 centimeter KWK-36 gun. Its thick armor and highly trained crews made it one of the most feared tanks of the war. At ranges where many Allied guns struggled, the Tiger could destroy enemy vehicles with a single well-placed shot. Facing these monsters were American tank destroyers like the M10 Wolverine. The M10 was built for a different kind of war. Rather than absorbing punishment, it relied on mobility, concealment, and aggressive tactics. Based on the dependable M4 Sherman chassis, it mounted a powerful 3-inch M7 gun in a manually rotated, open-topped turret. The vehicle carried a crew of 5: commander, gunner, loader, driver, and assistant driver. Its armor was thin. Its turret exposed the crew to weather, shell fragments, and sniper fire. But in the right position, with a clear shot at the enemy's side, the M10 was deadly. American doctrine assumed that tanks would support infantry while specialized tank destroyers hunted enemy armor. In practice, crews like those in the M10 often found themselves in direct duels against German heavy tanks, and when that happened, the outcome depended on nerve, terrain, and who fired accurately first. One of the critical points in the German advance was the small Belgian town of Stavelot. A stone bridge over the Amblève River connected narrow roads through the forest. If German armor seized the crossing intact, they could push west toward key fuel depots and open roads leading deeper into Allied territory. American forces understood the importance of this location. Elements of the 30th Infantry Division and attached tank destroyer units rushed to block the roads. Among them were M10 Wolverines from the 823rd Tank Destroyer Battalion. These crews had little time to prepare. During the night of December 17th, engineers wired bridges for demolition. Infantry dug foxholes in frozen ground. Tank destroyer commanders studied maps by flashlight and positioned their vehicles behind trees, barns, and road bends. One M10 crew was commanded by Lieutenant Robert McCall, a fictionalized composite based on typical U.S. tank destroyer officers who fought in the Ardennes. His gunner, Sergeant Thomas Reed, was known for his calm under pressure. Loader Corporal James Nolan kept armor-piercing rounds stacked close to the breech despite the bitter cold that numbed his hands. Driver, Private First Class Walter Hayes sat with both gloves wrapped around the controls, engine idling softly. Above them, there was no turret roof to shield them from snow. Before dawn, the temperature fell below freezing. Frost formed on the gun sights. Every sound seemed louder in the stillness. Men listened for the distant rumble of German engines. At first, nothing. Then, just after 7 a.m., the forest began to tremble. Far down the road came a deep metallic growl, unlike the lighter sound of trucks or half-tracks. Branches shook, birds burst from the trees. The vibration passed through the frozen ground and into the hull of the waiting M10. The Germans were coming. Lieutenant McCall raised his field glasses and stared into the gray mist. Shapes moved between the pines. Infantry rode on half-tracks. Then, emerging with deliberate power, came the Tiger One. It was commanded by Hauptsturmführer Karl Brenner, another representative composite character reflecting veteran Tiger commanders. Brenner had fought on the Eastern Front and in Normandy. He trusted his crew and his machine completely. Inside the Tiger, gunner Feldwebel Otto Weiss settled his eye to the sight. Loader Hans Richter stood ready beside the massive 88mm rounds. Driver Dieter Schenk kept the tank creeping forward at low speed. They expected resistance, but they also believed that if they saw the enemy first, the fight would be brief. The Tiger advanced to within approximately 900 yards. Lieutenant McCall knew the frontal armor was too thick for a guaranteed kill at that distance. But if he waited longer, the Tiger might spot them first. There would be no second chance. He made the decision. Fire. Sergeant Reed squeezed the trigger. The M10's 3-inch gun erupted with a violent crack. The entire vehicle recoiled. Smoke filled the turret. The shell streaked down the road and struck the Tiger's glasses with a shower of sparks. Every American watched. The Tiger remained intact. The armor-piercing round had failed to penetrate. For a moment, neither vehicle moved. Then the German commander identified the flash. The Tiger halted. Its turret began to rotate toward the concealed American position. In the M10, loader Nolan wrestled another round into the breech. The manual traverse mechanism strained as Reed tried to keep the sight on target. Lieutenant McCall shouted for a second shot, but the Tiger was faster than expected. Inside the German tank, Otto Weiss adjusted elevation and crosshair with the practiced movements of a veteran. The range was ideal. The target was exposed. Brenner gave the order to fire. The 88mm gun thundered. The shell crossed the distance in an instant and smashed into the M10's upper hull and turret area. Thin armor tore open. Fragments ricocheted through the fighting compartment. Ammunition ignited. Flames burst upward into the winter air. The open turret became a furnace. Sergeant Reed was killed immediately. Corporal Nolan was thrown backward by the blast. Driver Hayes, stunned and bleeding, yet tried to escape through the front hatch. Lieutenant McCall was hurled from the turret as the Wolverine burned behind him. The duel had lasted only seconds. The Americans had fired first. The Tiger had delivered the fatal shot. But the story did not end there. The explosion revealed the Tiger's position to other American units hidden in the surrounding woods. Bazooka teams shifted through the snow. Artillery observers radioed coordinates. Additional tank destroyers moved to alternate firing positions. The German heavy tank had won the duel, but it had also exposed itself. As Kampfgruppe Peiper pushed through the Ardennes, fuel shortages and determined resistance slowed every advance. Bridges were blown, roads clogged with wrecks. American engineers and infantry turned small villages into deadly choke points. At Stavelot, this resistance proved decisive. Throughout December 18th and 19th, fierce fighting raged around the town. American forces recaptured parts of the area, destroyed fuel supplies the Germans desperately needed, and cut off sections of Peiper's column. Tiger tanks, for all their firepower, consumed enormous amounts of gasoline. Without fuel, they became immobile bunkers. The same heavy machines that inspired fear now sat stranded along icy roads. Crews tried to siphon fuel from damaged vehicles. Mechanics worked in the snow. Infantry formed defensive rings around disabled armor. But the operational momentum was gone. American fighter bombers returned when the weather cleared. Artillery pounded road junctions. Reinforcements poured into the Ardennes. The offensive that had begun with such surprise and confidence started to unravel. For the surviving crewmen of the destroyed M10, the memory of that duel never faded. Those who escaped carried burns, wounds, and the shock of seeing friends killed in a single flash. Yet their sacrifice helped delay one of the most dangerous armored spearheads of the battle. This was the harsh truth of tank-destroyer warfare. M10 crews knew their vehicles were vulnerable. Their open turrets offered excellent visibility, but little protection. The manual turret traverse was slower than powered systems. In close combat against heavy German armor, every second mattered. Still, they fought. The M10's 3-inch gun could penetrate the side armor of a Tiger and remained highly effective against most German vehicles. The Wolverine was reliable, mobile, and available in large numbers. It served in North Africa, Italy, Normandy, and the Ardennes. The thousands of American soldiers trusted it with their lives. The Tiger I, by contrast, was both legendary and limited. Its armor and 88mm gun made it formidable, but it was mechanically demanding, expensive, and difficult to maintain. Only about 1,350 Tiger I tanks were built during the entire war. Each loss was hard for Germany to replace. In one-on-one combat, the Tiger usually held the advantage, especially from the front. But wars are not decided by single duels. They are decided by logistics, weather, teamwork, and the ability to keep fighting after terrible losses. During the Battle of the Bulge, American forces demonstrated all of these strengths. Small units held crossroads. Engineers destroyed bridges at the last possible moment. Artillery massed devastating fire. Tank destroyer crews, often outgunned, it delayed superior armor, long enough for reinforcements to arrive. The Ardennes Offensive ultimately failed. By late January 1945, German forces had been pushed back to their starting positions after suffering enormous casualties in men, tanks, and irreplaceable equipment. The Western Allies resumed their advance into Germany. The war in Europe would end less than 5 months later. The duel between an M10 Wolverine and a Tiger I captures something essential about armored warfare in World War II. Technology mattered. Armor thickness mattered. Gun caliber mattered. But in the decisive moment, what mattered most was the courage of the men inside. In the M10, exposed to freezing wind and enemy fire, American soldiers held their ground and fired even when the odds were against them. In the Tiger, a veteran German crewman responded with disciplined speed and deadly precision. Both crews relied on training, trust, and instinct. Both understood that a few seconds could determine life or death. If you stood on that road near Stavelot after the smoke cleared, you would see scorched snow, shattered trees, and the twisted remains of a tank destroyer. You would smell burned fuel and hot metal. The silence would feel almost unreal after the violence, and you would understand how quickly combat could change everything. One shell fired too soon. One shell fired with devastating accuracy. 5 men inside a Wolverine whose war ended in a single flash. A Tiger crew that survived one more day in a campaign already slipping beyond Germany's control. History often remembers the machines, the Wolverine and the Tiger. But the real story belongs to the men who climbed into them, closed the hatches, and faced each other in the frozen forests of Belgium. The M10 fired first. The Tiger returned a deadly shot. And in those few unforgettable seconds, the brutal reality of World War II armored combat was laid bare for all time.
If you want more content like this, subscribe now and comment below.